Hey everybody, this is Robbie with Robbie's Reptiles. We're actually going to be unboxing a couple of geckos from Sostic. Him and I are actually going to be doing a collaboration, but I'll get into the details of that later. Without further ado, let's go ahead and unbox these geckos. First up, this is going to be a female actually from, I believe it was like sour gummy gecko or something. And this is a pretty simple female, but you know, when I see a female for an incredible price, I always have to buy. It's an addiction, it's a problem I have. But this is gonna be a really good female to have because, you know, being a simple flame with pitch black base color and a white dorsal, that can be used in a number of different projects. When I eventually pair it to my visual exanthic male, it can make a bunch of het exanthic pinstripes that are black, pair them together, and now you've got a bunch of visual exanthics with pinstripes. So that's pretty much my only goal with getting a female like this. She is a bit small right now, and she will be raised up to about 35 or 40 grams before we think about breeding. But she is really simple, and I like that. You know, not a lot of people value flames or just simple pinstripes. I'm a big fan of them. I think that they're nice and simple and minimal, and I don't think that they'll ever go out of style. Especially when it comes to introducing to new morphs and things like that. You want to be able to have all the different varieties of these morphs that these geckos come in, just to see what those actually look like when they're represented in the offspring. So in the photos, she looked a little bit more black and white. But in person, she's more of a tricolor. I definitely would still consider this a flame. Not the most impressive head structure. It is slightly pointing up, but she has very large crests. So that's going to be really interesting. I think she would even do well with lily whites or even some of my extreme harlequins. Like recently, me and Lux Exotics did a trade, and I traded her Rust, my red-based white patterned extreme drippy harlequin, for her yellow and black, essentially Kevin 3.0. One of the most impressive yellow and black extreme harlequin males I've ever seen. And he's going to be involved in all of my Kevin-like pairings. But it does have a bit of a graham cracker head. In the photos that I did originally see, it looked a little bit more black and white. But for the purposes of this female, that's not a problem at all. And usually that's to be expected. You know, geckos have so many different states of being fired. There's actually a lot of controversy that goes on when you should actually photograph a gecko when you're trying to sell it. Do you photograph it fired down, fired up? Sometimes people will photograph them mid-fired because the colors look more impressive, and there's a lot of controversy that was happening recently about that. I stayed out of it because I think the answer is probably just to show all of those different states. You never want to sell a gecko that the person thinks, oh, this is how they look, and then they end up getting it, and it actually looks different 90% of the time. That happened to me with Rust, actually, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to trade him. He is beautiful, and he is proven, and he made a lot of beautiful high white babies, but the problem is when I actually got him, he was majority yellow, and not in fact white, let alone cream patterned. He was much more yellow patterned with a red base, so that was very disappointing when I first got him. But anyway, rambling enough, let's get on to the Sostic package that I have. So inside of here are only 2 geckos, but he sent a very large box. Again, Sostic is one of the best breeders in the industry. He's been specializing recently on phantom reds, which I think is awesome. I think that truly anyone in this industry, if you just decide to focus on something long enough, people will eventually come to you for exactly what you're specializing in. Now Sostic is focusing so much on that red patternless or phantom. Eventually his name will probably be synonymous with said morph. So when I had originally made my first video about how I got the exanthic, he commented or he messaged me, reached out to me and mentioned how there was such a lack of red patternless het exanthics, let alone red-based het exanthics. And so I said, hey, we should definitely do a collaboration. If you want to supply me with a female or 2 of red phantoms, I've got a couple myself. I will start creating those red patternless or red-based het exanthics. He supplied me with one of his red phantom breeders. We're going to be pairing that to my visual exanthic that is 100% patternless, pinstripeless, and Dalmatianless. He's the cleanest slate that you can get in terms of exanthic. And this one right here is on top, but we'll save that for later. Also, side note, all the packaging is great. There's a cool pack in here as well, because in Texas, right now the weather is staying below 85 till about 2 p.m., but always rather be safe than sorry. You'd much rather have a cold gecko than a hot gecko. Wow, this is a huge female, much bigger than I expected. So I'm gonna have to plump up my visual exanthic a lot more before pairing, but we'll let her settle in for a month or 2 before we even consider pairing to the visual exanthic. This is a beautiful red female though. Huge head. I would reckon she's 55 grams, maybe even 60. I'll actually weigh her later. In person, I would say much more of a kind of like a orange soda color, but I'm sure she's not fully fired or something like that. Either way, being a patternless is great. So this female is absolutely massive, and being a red patternless with such a large head is such a great thing to come by. She actually does have a bit of dashed pinstriping, which is really nice. And it's kind of like a peach color on her tail, really beautiful looking. Yeah, in terms of, you know, an example of a red phantom, this is it. Really like this female. She's going to be really cool. I'm excited to see what the babies look like. If the black from the exanthic visual male and then the offspring are all actually black base or dark brown base, or if some of the babies will actually come out red. That would be really awesome if they came out red head exanthic. Great body structure. I could check her calcium sacs too. Are you not aggressive at all? Yeah. She needs to cool for a little bit. There's no, I can't see any white sacs in her mouth. I'll be doing a video sometime about actually checking the calcium sacs on geckos. It's an interesting process, and it's a good trick to have in your pocket if you're a breeder like me. Good jump. I'll just let her crawl around. Now this is something a little bit more interesting. As you guys have probably seen my other video about possible cappuccinos and everything like that, Sostic actually reached out to me and said that he had a gecko that he believed might be a cappuccino. Him and I decided to partner up, and I'm going to be pairing this to my male, and we're gonna see if we can prove it out possibly. Now, one of the only ways that you can really prove out a possible cappuccino is to pair it to an actual cappuccino that is proven already and see if they create super cappuccinos. However, I do personally still think that you could pair to a lily white and determine that by seeing if there's frappuccino offspring, but technically that's not the right way to do it, or I think RCK put it, the poor man's way of doing it. But I think that is still a valid way of doing it. And then if you are gonna sell those offspring, just tell the people that it technically is not 100% confirmed. You haven't created supers. Sorry, there's flies. Just be transparent with anyone that you're selling with. But let's go ahead and actually open up this gecko. This female is kind of like an orange base, absolutely bald, no head structure whatsoever. But a lot of the original cappuccinos really don't have any sort of impressive head structure. And she does have Dalmatian spots. And for me, my terms were if there is even a single offspring that doesn't have Dalmatian spots, that I would claim those first. Other than the fact that she has Dalmatian spots, she seems to be a tiger with a brown base and orange pattern. Really interesting looking, and she does have those, you know, unique hues a little bit. But again, this might be a total flop and not actually a cappuccino in any shape or form. And again, a lot of people are going to like Pet Store and PetSmart and buying Crested Geckos for $20, $30, $40 and, oh no. And buying these cappuccinos or possible cappuccinos, you know, for $20, $30, $40 and then trying to upsell them for like $500 as a possible, which again, that's up to you and your business if you would like to take that risk. But just because a gecko has a V at the base of the tail doesn't make it a cappuccino. Just because it's brown doesn't make it a cappuccino. And just because it has pinstripe, honey, what are you doing? Okay, well, they're getting really antsy. That's pretty much all that we have. So thank you guys for watching today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that YouTube mumbo jumbo, and I'll see you guys in the next video.